Hello, BookTube. I thought we'd take a quick tour through the books in Entertainment Weekly. I like to do this on this channel. I like to go through the American Entertainment magazine, Entertainment Weekly, and look for the books coverage, which is the nerdiest and therefore you would think the most ignored part of culture in this magazine. I was doing it regularly, and then I got thrown off track by an issue of Entertainment Weekly that was entirely about Game of Thrones coming to an end. And although that's a book, it's definitely bookish. It's a book on the front cover of Entertainment Weekly. The whole of the issue was about that one book. And that threw me off, and then I just stayed off. But I'm back. I'm back, baby, and better than ever. They're celebrating the conclusion of Veep, Julia Louis-Dreyfus's very, very funny TV show, Veep. Or multiple covers, and they're celebrating it so much that they put the name of the show over the masthead of the magazine itself, which is kind of strange. But I thought we'd go through this issue just briefly and see what we have in the way of books. Yeah, see there, those are all of the variant covers. I just get the one that comes to me in the mail because I subscribed to Entertainment Weekly for like $6 a year years ago. And to the best of my knowledge, I have never renewed. They just send it out, and I'm perfectly happy to get it. I would renew if I owed the money. I would definitely renew it because I love this magazine. But the issue, every issue starts off with a must list, things you absolutely must consume in pop culture, and it's all sorts of stuff that I don't know about or have ignored or have consumed and disliked. But in the midst of the must list, there are almost always bookish things. Yeah, okay. Like, for instance, number 5 is books, and it's The New Me, which is a novel by Hallie Butler that I have not read. In search of a book that offers a scathingly funny take on millennial burnout phenomenon, this satirical novel follows a 30-year-old temp worker stuck in a familiar rut, dry cereal for dinner, nightly forensic files marathoning, and only to decide suddenly to try to transform her life. And we're told that it is Lena Dunham's Girls, plus Office Space, plus My Year of Rest and Relaxation, plus anxious sweating emoji. That if you add all of those things together, you get this book. I'm not sure if that's praise or not. I don't know. But usually the must list has another, the other book on here is Good Talk by Mira Jacob. Which is a nonfiction account of a mother talking with her son about various things. Let's see, depicting conversations about race and identity between the author, a queer woman born to Indian immigrants, and her 6-year-old son. I didn't like the book at all because the stand-in for the 6-year-old... I thought the stand-in for the 6-year-old son was us, adult readers. That the author considered us to be the stand-in for her 6-year-old son, who knows nothing, and must be patiently, carefully, but firmly taught about everything. Literally everything. Needless to say, if a book characterizes me as its reader that way, I'm not all that interested in reading it. And keep in mind, that also applies to the foremost offenders of such books. Now, the books that characterize readers that way as 6-year-olds who need to be patiently instructed about everything involving life, now those books are almost exclusively written by SJW progressives. But for the 600 years before that, they were entirely written by bloated, old, gray-haired white men. So I don't like it when they do it either. I want to stress that. I don't like the infantilizing of the reader done by anybody. Anyway, I'm trying to walk around the viper nest here. So that ends the must. All the rest of the must list is stuff that I don't know anything about. Then we have a 2-page spread on the college admissions scandal that is subsuming a character from a TV show. She's caught up in it. Okay. A 2-page ad for vaping, for some of these allegedly safer alternatives to smoking. The Entertainment Weekly is perfectly happy to let them pay for a 2-page ad, and look how big the warnings are about the addictive properties of nicotine or this product contains nicotine or whatnot. I don't understand. I don't understand these spreads. I really don't. I guarantee you there are advertisers lined up to take a spread like this in Entertainment Weekly. I guess the money must be really good. That's how the tobacco industry, and make no mistake about it, vaping and juuling are part of the tobacco industry. Make no mistake about that. If they weren't, the patent holders and the product designers would all have been literally assassinated. You don't have $1 trillion a year industry without literally assassinating your competitors. These people would have car crashes. They would have heart attacks. There are entire divisions of big tobacco that are anyway. I guess it must be that they get 2-page ads like this in Entertainment Weekly the same way they get everything else, by just throwing money at the whole thing, just better money than anybody else. Okay, then we have a big generous write-up of Veep. It'll be a profile of the show, and it will be a goodbye. Okay, there's an oral history of Cruel Intentions, the movie Cruel Intentions. So they get all of the cast members back together and just interview them about what they thought of Cruel Intentions. Okay, all right. Then we get to the back of the magazine, and that breaks down the pop culture by genre, by type of pop culture. And the first one, of course, is movies. So we have a review of Us, a feature in Danny DeVito, an interview with Danny DeVito starring in the new version of Dumbo. There's a review of Hotel Mumbai, which I have a screener for, but I haven't watched it yet, and I feel that's not good. I should have watched that by now. It gets a B- from Entertainment Weekly, which is like an F from anybody else. Entertainment Weekly they are unabashedly a fan of pop culture. They don't like to pan things. And believe it or not, I sympathize with that. They are perfect. It's their house. They're perfectly free to do that. And nobody's under any illusions that this is a critical magazine. I think the readers know that this is a cheerleading organ, and so they mostly do. So for something to get a B-, it must have displeased the viewer. Then we have the TV section, which I don't watch TV, so I'm not going to know anything about it. Then we have what to watch, and that will also be a whole bunch of things that are buzzworthy, but that I don't watch myself. And then music. Steve knows nothing about music at all, so we can just skip the music section. You all know much more about music than I do, but eventually, if we get through enough cool genres, we will get to the uncool genre, and that is books, of course. That is our genre. We are the uncool kids, and there it is. So what have we got? We have a whole bunch of good bookish people who work at the back of this magazine. The first years and years ago, when I first turned to the back of Entertainment Weekly and realized, hey, there's a book section here, I thought, well, this is just going to be awful, and it isn't. Oh, as you've seen if you've watched these Entertainment Weekly segments, it isn't awful. Their book section is not awful, usually. Sometimes they get caught up in, if this emoji met that emoji, this is the book that would result, or nonsense like that. But usually I like the kind of critical minds and choices that I find. So what have we got here? Okay, so prominently featured is Candice Carty Williams' debut, Queenie, which I have, but I have not read. And it's written up by Leah Greenblatt, who's really, really good. Let's see, what does she say? Plot-wise, Carty Williams tends towards certain tropes. Missed cues, unlikely coincidences. Okay. Okay. There's nothing wrong with the word cliche. You can use the word cliche. But her unvarnished takes on depression, gentrification, cultural taboos, and casual racism, from the cringy chocolate puns of OkCupid prospects to the colleague who briskly dismisses, quote, all that Black Lives Matters nonsense, in a meeting cut to the bone. And her debut reads a lot like its smart, sensitive protagonist, full of flaws and contradictions, and urgently, refreshingly real. Okay, she gives it a B+. Makes me even more curious to read it. I have it. I've meant to read it. I just haven't got to it. I love debut novels, so I'm going to get to it. Okay, then Leah Greenblatt does a feature on name dropping, where we have, it's a little feature about character names in the titles of books. hardly a new phenomenon, but I guess there's a bumper crop now. I haven't noticed that. Oh, and then someone named Clark Collis does a review of Funny Man, the new biography of Mel Brooks. Big fat thing that I read with a jaundiced eye. I have my own Mel Brooks stories. I wonder if Clark Collis liked it, because it's a chatty, gossipy book. It's well, let's see. It's by a practiced author. So let's see here. McGilligan brings expertise. The professor and journalist has written biographies of Brooks' fellow on-screen legends Clint Eastwood and Jack Nicholson, as well as of directors Alfred Hitchcock and Fritz Lang. His Alfred Hitchcock book was good. It was very good. I didn't read the Nicholson one, although I liked his Clint Eastwood book. In this book, he claims he had never been faced with so many potential interviewees who declined to cooperate, or who did so on condition of anonymity. The author posits that this was in part because people, quote, feared Brooks's temper or litigiousness. That might explain McGilligan's attitude towards his subject, but it makes plain why this book is longer on dry facts than flavorful reminiscences. The result is a goldmine for those in the market for dirt on Brooks. Okay, well, okay. Okay, that's a little on the strange side as a way to characterize what's going on. Yes, there's lots of dirt on Mel Brooks in this book, but if you wrote, there is, in fact, out in the market now, a gigantic biography on Bing Crosby, and you could trawl the survivors of Crosby-era Hollywood from stem to stern, and you wouldn't find anywhere near the number of horrible anecdotes about him that are told about Mel Brooks in this book. The fact that those anecdotes exist in such volume says something, and it's not something that is, dismissible as just salacious dirt. I have heard him. I have been in small groups on the Vineyard, listening to him, and at Cape Cod, listening to him pontificate. And some of the claims are unbelievable, and this was 30 years ago, so when he was in full possession of his memory and his mind and whatnot. And what are you supposed to do when you're standing in an audience of people who are forbidden to leave and forbidden to speak, when the speaker claims that he invented the knock-knock joke? What are you supposed to do with that? That is Hollywood egomania taken to such comical lengths that there's no way to even consider it. I don't know that you could get... I mean, I understand what was the name? Clark Collis? I understand what point he's trying to make, but I don't know that you could do a critical biography of Mel Brooks. I don't know that you could do that. I think this should stand as probably the best one. The book section moves on. Oh, great. Okay, so the next one is Patrick Radden Keefe's book, Say Nothing, about a 1972 disappearance, a crime in Northern Ireland, that in the course of his book he actually manages to solve. And this is not a review. This is written by David Canfield, but it's more of a profile of the book. It's really good. It's really, really good. Oh, goodness gracious. Canfield calls it the year's most gripping nonfiction title. Wow. I don't know if that's completely true, but that is a great claim. Okay, well, it's a fantastic book. Let's see. Let's move on here. Okay. David Canfield, boy, he does so much work in every issue. The guy must never sleep. He does a review of The Other Americans by Lila Lalami, who is a book that I have yet to get to. I read her previous book, The Moore's Account. Is that what it was called? Yeah, The Moore's Account. I read her previous book and didn't think much of it. And then a fellow critic of my acquaintance told me that he really liked it. And I trust him, so I went back and found more stuff than I had seen the first time, and it makes me eager to read. I wonder if her book gets an A-, so he really liked it. Lalami's pacing is scrupulous. Her provocations about love's dangerous power, the ties between resentment and privilege, resonate through to the last page. The hopeful conclusion feels tentative, but let it settle. In a novel that knows hate but believes in people, a little optimism goes a long way. I like that. I like a lot of David Canfield's reviewing mannerisms. That line where he says, let it settle. That's great. And not a lot of critics have the self-confidence to say something like that. And then we have the new and notable column of books, including 3 hot debuts. The Old Drift by Namwali Serpel, which I think we saw on this channel, great big thing. A Woman is No Man by Itaf Rum. And Cheer Up, Mr. Widdicombe by Evan James. We know how this one tends to go. A big summer family gathering filled with dysfunction and secret spilling, absurd misunderstandings. Good thing first time novelist James puts his own quirky stamp on the genre. Okay, I didn't notice that. Yeah. And then the bullseye at the end. Those of you who are familiar with the old Spy magazine will recognize a parting feature like this. Sometimes books come up, but not often. Okay, yeah, like for instance, there's Dumbledore. Of course, J.K. Rowling has been spouting off about Dumbledore. J.K. Rowling reveals more details about an important Harry Potter romance that apparently wasn't important enough to actually write about. A fair point. I always want to say when people mention that J.K. Rowling has revealed something new about Harry Potter, about Dumbledore or whoever, I always want to say she isn't revealing anything. She's already written the books. She's just another reader. In order for her saying something to suddenly become canon, she would have to write it. We are not talking. Harry Potter books are not about real people, and she is not their biographer with all sorts of notes that she has in her bedroom or whatever. She created fictional characters and she wrote about them. There's no hint of any of this stuff in the books that she wrote until she writes a new book and with her name on it and says that she's not revealing anything. It's not like in the Harry Potter world there's all this stuff that we don't know, but that it does in fact exist. We only know what exists, what she created. And that drives me nuts that she thinks that she can just say something about any of her characters and the whole world of Harry Potter fans suddenly has to believe it. They don't. Any more than, if Shakespeare showed up today out of thin air and said, well, Hamlet was really gay. He's just one other reader. He's no authority. And once the book is out in the world, that's it. That's all there is to it. You don't get to retain your claim to it. You have your shot to create your world and say what you want to say. After that, it's all interpretation. It's all how anybody interprets it. And the worth or the lack thereof of their interpretation will depend on what they cite in the work, not on what you say. But anyway, that is the latest. That is the Books and Entertainment Weekly, a book-heavy issue, as they all are. And I'll try to keep this up again. I got derailed by Game of Thrones, but I'll try to keep it up from now on. But we have plenty of other bookish stuff to talk about, so I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.